speaking of Pete Bruton, he went as far as he could in that book. I mean, he was not allowed to continue the connections to Khashoggi, to First National Bank of Chicago, to Khashoggi and Bin Mahfoud and Khalid Abdullah and Texas Commerce Bankshare. This has been going on, which would have, if he had gotten that in his book, that part of it would have never been able to reach the level it has. But going back to Frist and Rainwater, Richard Rainwater was the money behind Columbia Healthcare, and they pulled, that when we see that sort of pump and dump scheme, a very very sophisticated pump and dump scheme that's protected at the highest level, we know we're going to come across the same names, including we haven't even gotten into Misher and Modisette and Buck Revell, who plays law enforcement, terrorism law enforcement, meaning for the terrorists.
Yeah.
And the asset, John Meekum, he was an Iran-Contra asset, Tony Coelho, and all of these names in Texas and beyond.
The Dixie Mafia, if you will. Yeah.
The Dixie Mafia and its extensions to Louisiana and Florida that involve, Jeb Bush's shenanigans and so on. So their methods are to terrorize people and to warn people, and they have, when they use the children, they've crossed the line there and done some, but apparently people will still look the other way. What's next? Yeah.
Dan, you have anything else you want to add to this?
Well, I have one short comment. I mean, I was raised in Nashville. My family's been there since the founding of Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, I know many of the people there. They think that these guys are just good old Southern boys who just happen to be businessmen.
Yeah.
But I have one thing to say. They are, on the outside, they appear gregarious,
benevolent,
good old guys.
Yeah.
They are ruthless.
They are ruthless,
Absolutely.
And they're very dangerous and they're very evil.
And thank you very much for allowing me to be on.
All right, Dan, thanks for your call. Appreciate it. Now, Indira, I know we're going to be running out of time here with you. I want to touch on a couple of more things I want to get in here before you have to go. And one of these things I want to touch on is the rumors that were flying around Dick Broken Cheney and his money laundering bribery scheme in France. It's interesting to note that as that rumor started to raise its ugly head, our own Governor Bill Owens here in Colorado, was on the short list of vice presidential appointees.
That's
and it's kind of interesting how during that same time frame, our governor apparently traded his briefcase for a diaper bag. Okay, really, seriously, because that nixed any chance that he would have had this thing have gone forward. But what I found really interesting is this thing raised its head in France, and then it just kind of like dissolved and went away. Let's talk real quick about that, because what was at the heart of that matter in France? What was that all about with Dick Cheney?
They want to indict him back then and now for money laundering, bribery, and misuse of corporate assets to the tune of $6 billion. And at the heart of it is an LNG, a liquefaction factory in Nigeria, built by Halliburton, and with a French company called Technip, which has another sordid history.
Mm-hmm.
And the bribes were, here's the interesting thing, the money that came in to the GOP to do all of this and fix the elections and everything, is a significant amount of money. The stream of money that came in via Cheney was ladled out, they say, between 95 and 2000 when Cheney was Halliburton's CEO. And these, as they put it, retro commissions found their way back into the GOP funds, they are claiming. And what they're stunned by is that America's media has not even looked into that.
Mm-hmm.
But, when I look at things like, looting money and looting children, there's got to be a difference. I mean, billions of money looted, fine, okay, but when you start looting your own country's children, maybe America deserves the age of terror government that is coming down the pike, but I sure hope not.
Yeah. Let's go real quick to Terry in Littleton. Good afternoon, Terry. You're on the air.
Thank you. Another great program, Ms. Singh. Thank you for what you're doing. I can see you do it at considerable risk. My question is, on that Supreme Court nominee, it seemed to me, too, that she was not ever meant to be there. But what do you think the real ulterior motive? Was it just to placate the conservative Christians who said you're going to put a conservative on? Or what was the big ruse with that, and what do you think is going to happen next? What their really game plan is, what they're doing with the Supreme Court?
That was designed to keep us busy and to see who knew what. I still think it was to see whether there were any holes that would lead back to anything about George Bush, whether anybody, whether Myers sort of covering the tracks of George Bush and his criminal shenanigans, personal criminal shenanigans.
Did they discover that the people did know there were holes with Myers?
And the other thing was to keep everyone busy, screaming and yelling, creating a lot of media blitz about it, covering up the fact that there were some more serious issues going on, serious indictments. The one into Cheney is extremely serious because this is international. They can come get him, basically, and they can and will shut down this criminal cabal if they had a chance.
Oh, you don't think that the international, I thought they were well-placed internationally, that they have choke points there, that they would stop something like that happening?
No, because as far as we can tell, there's Chinese involvement in it. There's Italian involvement in it. We can't get a good fix of who the elements are in other countries, and at least I can't. I know others have, but the French, if they can pull off this indictment with Cheney, they'll do serious damage to the whole cabal. And America needs to understand that and work with them.
Yeah, and see, one thing, Terry, that I can add to this is this, okay? That, you have this global cabal that is that's overseeing a lot of different things. But within their ranks, there's a lot of backbiting, backstabbing, power grabs, and that kind of thing. And I think that what we see here playing out on the world stage is how these dynamics are all working, together. Even though they might be in opposition to one another, they're working together to ultimately lead us into this age of terror, as Indira is talking about. So it serves a bigger picture down the road. You know what I'm saying?
Given the information that you have, Ms. Singh, on or what they think they have on Cheney, what do you think the odds are, percentage-wise, that anything will ever come about on that?
Let me put it to you this way. If everyone works together and comes real close to closing them down, you will see the mother of all terrorist attacks.
Yes, I believe that. Last question. What do you see coming down then now for the next Supreme Court nominee? Is that something that's going to be in their pocket again? They're going to place somebody there again, or
you can take that to the bank. Absolutely.
Well,
do you have any insight, Indira, who it might be? I'm thinking Alberto Gonzalez is still a good possibility.
If they put him in, we're all in deep trouble.
Oh, yeah.
I think they know enough not to put him forward because we've got enough information on him that we can, close that down. But they will get another person that plays their game.
Okay. All right. Very good. Terry?
Thank you so much again. And, I don't mean to bring the Bible in there, but, there's a story in there about Esther. She came into the kingdom for such a time as this. You were placed into some high positions for a really important cause, and I really appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you so much for that comment.
Yeah, Terry, thank you very much, okay?
Bye.
You take care. Bye-bye. Indira, we've got about 6 minutes, and I want to do this. I want to touch on the investigation. And, of course, folks, again, keep in mind that Indira's investigation into 9/11 has led her to California, where there are some very interesting things going on there. I think we touched on it last week when we brought Peter Chernoff on the air. We were talking about, some very, very strange things. But it sounded familiar to the Omaha, Nebraska scandal. And Indira, what can you share with us in about 4 or 5 minutes? What's going on with that?
Well, Peter is back in jail again. As you know, we're trying to get him some significant legal help. Some of the information he gave us is extremely volatile. And we've done some tracking, and it leads us right back to Dallas, Texas. And it's very troubling, and I think at this point, since they have him, we don't want to say too much more on the air because his life's in danger where it is. But I am satisfied that what he has given us is it leads back to the same names that it would have been no way for him to know about it back in the period of time that it was happening to him.
Right.
Right. In other words, that what's panned out in the next 20 years has sort of proven his point.
Yeah.
You know, but we can't mention those names. He's in too much danger.
Indira, one other thing too we'll kind of wrap on here is this. Okay, we'll wrap on this last question. That is this. What is the bigger picture here? Who is in charge? What do they want? And where's all of this going?
I think we're being tested. They want it, what they want right now is to know how far people will go to fight this. We have one last chance. This is it. Mm-hmm. And if we are not willing to march en masse, like the people in New Orleans, if they're not willing to march en masse, if we are not willing to, for instance, declare a day of, a general strike, saying this will stop, the people have the power. One of the things about this transnational cabal is that it has been repeatedly told to me that the U.S. holds the key. The U.S. can stop this. So they're in charge. Mm-hmm. So it's up to the American people. Either we shut this down by just peaceful, nonviolent demonstrations, or we will not have a second chance, and there will be bloodshed, the likes of which this world has never seen.
I tend to agree with you because I've always said, I think in the long run they would not like to see the infrastructure damaged. But I always have believed that in the event that people don't go along peacefully and cooperate with them, I've always believed that violence was an option on their part. I mean, you mentioned another terrorist attack. Well, we know that we're sitting vulnerable and wide open with our borders, for example, and our president does absolutely nothing to close the borders, at least to get some control over it. And we know that it's not just been Mexicans that have been coming across the border. It's been people in the Triangle of Terror, which represents the radical Islamic, fundamentalist group that has connections to PTEC.
That's correct.
And the funding and all of that. And what else did you say?
And through PTEC, right back to this criminal cabal.
Right. So, we're sitting ducks for all of this. And it's amazing to me that the American people are not, raising up and crying out loudly that we demand justice. We want this thing stopped. And it goes back to, for example, right here in our locale. They want C&D, referenda C&D passed, which, is another one of these huge spending bills. And if we don't, the money is critical here. If we cut the money off, if the American citizens would say we're not going to pay for this anymore, the game dissolves. That's all it amounts to. Money is the root of all of this problem. And until the American people realize that they're financing this, and if it wasn't for them having to be involved that way, this thing would not have power.
Absolutely. The way we fight back is people do not underestimate the power of 200 million civilians. They cannot fight that.
That's right. Absolutely. We're out of time. Thank you so much for coming on the program. And, of course, we'll be developing more later down the road, okay?
Okay.
All right,
Thank
Indira.
you, Michael.
Thank you very much. And we'll be in touch, okay?
Okay, thanks.
All right, take care. And, again, that was Indira Singh. We're going to take this break. When we come back, we're going to do open lines. Again, our lines are open, 877-424-4111, 877-424-4111. It's a national toll-free number for those of you calling outside the Denver metro area. If you're calling from inside the Denver metro area, 303-423-0188. I'd like to hear your reactions to what you've heard. I'm Michael Corbin. You're listening to A Closer Look. We'll be right back.